Welcome to UCHL's for today's media luncheon. Our players are defensive tackle Mark Rosenquist, offensive center Aaron Cox, and in the middle, head coach Matt Mitchell. Coach, if you can talk about the homecoming win over Truman State, and we'll move on to going back to the GLIAC against Hillsdale.
It was awesome to have so many football alumni back. They had a reunion for the 2006 National Championship team, which I was fortunate enough to be an assistant for that squad. So those guys were back and had a chance to reconnect with a lot of football alumni from various generations that were back for the game. So that was cool. Cool part about homecoming is when you get those guys who've been a part of Grand Valley football come back on campus and down there on the sidelines and interacting with our team. And obviously, a good atmosphere, got off to a great start against a good team. We didn't have the greatest kickoff coverage, but our defense held strong. We got the turnover. Alton Voss tips the pass. Eric here picks the thing off, and then we go down and score. And we get another interception. Joe Moran, one of our senior linebackers, makes a great play on a ball across the middle. And then we go back and score again with Martavius Carter. And the defense gets a couple tackles for loss, a little bit backed up. And we block a punt for a touchdown. Isaiah Nkansa, redshirt freshman, got in there along with Mike Pettis, one of our other redshirt freshmen, and blocked the punt. And Jalen Bryan was there to scoop and score. So you look up, it's 21-0 right away. And it's obviously been the MO of this team here in 2016. I think that we've had great approach on our Friday stuff that we do prior to the game, and Saturday we've been really locked in, and I just felt the same way. Heading into this contest, our guys are ready to go. So, when we start breaking the game down from the three phases, from an offensive perspective, I think still some things in the red zone and on third down that we can execute a little bit better. A little disappointed if there's one thing taken out of that game. I know we had 500 and some odd yards against their defense, but a little disappointed that we had to settle for the field goals. It's nice to have a weapon like Joel Skipper that can kick a 50-plus yard field goal, and he also kicked another one into the wind. But our expectation is to score when we get down inside the 30, and we had a couple times that we did not do that. And, a little bit our third down, too. We got to get a little bit better on third down at times. But I thought we played better at the quarterback position this week. Bart did a good job managing the run game, good job managing protections. Stayed, had clean pockets back there. And a couple throws we probably wish back. For the most part, though, he's putting it on it. Nick Dotson happened to be the recipient of a couple plays. They really started pressuring and blitzing us. And people bring pressure. To have screen game there to be able to kind of help out everybody else is important. That's what happened on that specific, the last scoring play, the big, touchdown catch by Nick Dotson was they ran cover zero, and we had a screen on, and we hit it. Had some offensive linemen downfield blocking them up. So good day for our offense. I think we came out pretty healthy on the offensive side of the ball, spread the ball around. A lot of different people got involved. Defensively, a great job by both units controlling their running game. Heading into that game, that's a unit that had been running the ball very effectively in the GLVC, and they had a freshman running back who has been very productive. I thought we controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, specifically on the defensive line and linebackers. There wasn't much push. There wasn't much room. They really struggled to throw the ball consistently. We knew that heading in, so it was a big premium stop and then run. We did a good job stopping the run. Could have finished a little bit better on their quarterback. Probably left a few sacks out on the field, a couple tackles for losses. But same thing, our defense, never allowed them inside the red zone. Our red zone defense was non-existent because they weren't in it. And the only 3 points we gave up were off of the the block punt, which obviously has to get cleaned up. And so special teams, had we not got the punt blocked, we had a good day on special teams, including scoring. And, it's nice when you're in week 7 that you can start pulling some starters out. You get comfortable enough leads that you can pull starters out and, get some guys some experience and also keep some wear and tear off of some of your starters. And so we accomplished a lot of things on Saturday. Put us to 7-0, heading into Hillsdale. We're starting to stretch right now. We got 3 of our last 4 games here in the regular season on the road. We've had the comforts of playing 5 of our first 7 at home, so 3 of our last 4 games in the road. It starts here with Hillsdale. Hillsdale is undefeated at home. They're 3-0 at home and 0-3 on the road. When you look at Hillsdale in 2016, a little bit different than maybe some previous Hillsdale teams. Typically when you think Hillsdale college football, you think ball control offense, limited possessions. They're going to try to run the ball and do some things. This year, they're using the strengths of their offense, which is the quarterback, Chance Stewart, a transfer from Western Michigan. has more pass attempts than our quarterback does. He's got a very strong arm, a very live arm. They're doing a lot of run-pass options with him and putting him in some positions to kind of read defenses. Obviously, he's feeling very comfortable here in 2016 back there, and he's what's making their offense go. Defensively, it's a solid defense. It's a defense that, great effort, runs to the ball. It's a very fundamentally sound defense. A defense knows they're going to be. I think they've had some injuries within their front seven, specifically with their linebacker core. That's probably hurt them in the last couple games. Have given up some explosive plays to Wayne State, and have also given up some explosive plays to Findlay. And so, just had a couple guys a little bit out of position here or there. They've had some inexperienced players at linebacker and some other guys in their back end that have had a chance to make a few plays here and there and haven't made them. But scheme's good, and they play hard, and we know what we're getting. So this is the last time we're going to play them as a member of the GLIAC, which is unfortunate, but it's the nature of the situation. So I'm sure there's a lot of motivations for them. Haven't played us the last time. This will be the last time they'll play us. They're at home. They're 3-0 at home. They got a good thing going at home, and we've got to, again, I just sound like a broken record, but we'll focus on Grand Valley this week, and this is a big week for us to keep getting better on the details, the fundamentals, the individual things. I think we're not busting a lot of things from a schematic standpoint. I think our guys understand how we want to get it done. We just have to be a little bit more focused on the details and, kind of work on that. So that'll be a big focus with this week's practice. Questions?
Coach, Hillsdale's always been a tough place to play. Is there anything specific about that environment there that makes it hard to play there?
That's a great question. I think it's a good small college atmosphere in terms of their environment. I would have normally said with maybe the few previous Grand Valley teams in the past that some of those early afternoon starts, sometimes with it's a lame excuse, but our biorhythms and our mojo, sometimes we're not early afternoon guys, but we've obviously done a good job of that this season. I think it's a little bit different this team because we have great senior leadership. We have a lot of upperclassmen. So, I think it has to do a little bit with the style of play. That is one thing I think is different this year than past years. And we always would talk about with Hillsdale. They're not going to turn the ball over there. They're not going to beat themselves with penalties. They're traditionally one of the lowest penalized teams in the GLIAC. They're always traditionally one of the teams that has the least amount of turnovers. They've always been up there in terms of time of possession and ball control. So, a message in previous years was, hey, you got to be careful with your possessions because you might in a typical football game on offensive side of the ball, you might get 13, 14, 15 offensive possessions. You may not only get 9, 10 offensive possessions based on the style of play. And it's also really critical to get off the field on third down against them. But this is a different year for them, and you can definitely tell that on tape, the tape that I've watched up to this point. I think they're trying to utilize their strengths, which is the quarterbacks and wideouts, and attempting to try to throw the ball a little bit more than maybe they have in the past. And so that may change the flow of the game a little bit more than a typical matchup they might have. But it's I think they've always been tough because of their team. I don't know if it has to do with the venue. I think it has to do with the team and the way that they play football. And the style of play that they have is it's a style of play where it's going to be tight ball games. It's always going to be extremely competitive, just based on their team discipline and the way that they operate.
Matt, Keith Otterbine's been coaching and competing against Grand Valley since the 80s, both with Hillsdale and before that with Ferris. And when you look at him and you try to take a look at what his teams do, is he the kind of guy that is always trying to change something on you to avoid that familiarity that you might get if you're just used to doing things a certain way?
Yeah, I think I would hopefully they would say the same thing. I think our staffs have a lot of mutual respect for each other. We've obviously met quite a bit in there. Early in my head coaching career, there were some crazy ball games that we had with them. The 2010, 2011, 2012, that kind of series, and even 2009 last year with Chuck Martin. But the one thing that you see here the past couple years with him is that there has been an evolution with the offense. The offense has changed. It still has the base look, the base fundamentals, but there's some new schemes. And there's some new ways that they're attempting to try to attack people. So, I think credit to them for continuing to try to put their players in the best position to succeed. And when you take a look at, the games they won, they put 51 points up on Tech and 28 on, and they've scored some points in their wins. And I think it comes down to Coach Otterbein runs the offense, and you can tell they're continuing to try to stay progressive and play to their players' strengths. Chance Stewart's a good player, and they're trying to play to his strengths.
And could you talk a little bit about the defensive performance in the first quarter when you had two big defenders make really quite amazing catches on intercepted balls there? I mean, the kind of balls that you could have said, hey, we could just as easily have missed that, but they really were responsible for turning the game in your favor.
Yeah, it's been kind of a unique year that way, Tom, just because we've got more defensive linemen and linebackers that have picks than I can remember. We jokingly have said this amongst our staff. I think our D-line linebackers have more picks than our secondary does, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is. We had Dylan Carroll had the pick last week. It's very rare you see back-to-back weeks with defensive line with interceptions, but Alton Voss was kind of out there spying, tipped the ball up in the air. Mark was in the right spot, and then we hit the quarterback hard on the one specific play with Joe Moran, but Joe Moran made a nice play there. And you think back to the opening of the season, David Talley had the pick six, kind of heading in there and doing some things. So, yeah, it's unique that you get those guys involved, but, I think a lot of that comes down to, one of our fundamentals. We're just relentless pursuit, and we say it all the time, when you pursue relentlessly and you get after quarterbacks and you just are flying around with your hair on fire and there's violent collisions, good things going to happen. The ball's going to pop up. Things are going to go your way. And so, I think that's, those type of plays happen when you have that type of pursuit and you have that belief that that's going to happen. If you're hanging around waiting for stuff to happen, it's never gonna. When you're being aggressive like that, that's when plays like that occur.
This is a question for everybody. Just 7 games in now, there were some questions with the offensive line at the beginning of the season. The defensive line has a lot of depth. The last game, a couple picks, Dylan Carroll, Sidney Omame, Mark Rosenquist. Just can you guys talk about, on both sides of the ball, just how much confidence you have in your battles at the line of scrimmage?
I'll let Mark go first, and Cox, and I'll finish up. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, we have a lot of depth, and we've been working with each other for a good 2 years now, and we have the trust in each other to be able to rely on each other to be there at the right time. So.
For the offensive line, we're just trying to get better each week. We know we've had some growing pains in the beginning of the season, and I think we've grown as a unit as the weeks progressed. We still have a lot of work to do, but I think we're having fun, and we're also having fun learning, and we're also picking each other up. We know where we have to be, and there's a lot of communication among all of us, so it helps out when everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, from my perspective as a coach, those are two different units. I think with our defensive line, you're looking at a lot of veteran defenders with a veteran skill set that's played a lot of games. And you look at all those guys. We've mixed in, a couple new guys, younger guys, but most of the guys have played a lot of football, and so our expectations for them are very, very high, and they are living up to those expectations. Nobody's been able to move us to the line of scrimmage. I think we're right up there in terms of the top of the GLIAC in sacks. We're getting the production that we want in terms of the sacks. Our offensive line is not as veteran a crew. We don't have as many returning starters on the offensive line as we have on the defensive line. We basically have Aaron Cox, who's played a lot of football. He started all 15 games last year for us, and Ben Walling played last year. But when you look at the other three, they're all very new. Nick Fish is a transfer from Illinois State, and besides the opener here the past 6 games, has played almost exclusively at right tackle for us. And then Nate Brady is a redshirt freshman, is playing left guard, and his first college football at all. And then you have Evan Schreiner, who's been on our program, but the first time he's been thrust in that role. So, you're getting to that point in the season where you are seeing the growth and the development of those guys. I think we're getting better in the run game on a weekly basis. There were some challenges Saturday that Truman State presented to us, especially in the second half when they started mixing up some fronts, and those were great learning experiences. In the first quarter, Tom, Bo, is your question. When we had, we were pretty much were going against the looks that we had seen. We had to make some adjustments in the second half, and the second quarter and the second half did a good job of that. And then it always helps play offensive line, in my opinion, when you have a guy like Martavius Carter. He can make you right. So that's a key component of our run game, too, is our tailbacks and giving the ball to him. And sometimes when things aren't clean, maybe I said up front, Marty's got a unique skill set that he can get the ball in the back end, even though it's not necessarily perfect at the line of scrimmage.
Mark, we got to go back to the last game and your interception. Big guys don't get that chance very often. What were you thinking when you saw the ball coming your way, and did you see it right away? And then why didn't you get it in the end zone?
Well, I was kind of surprised when I got the ball. I wasn't really ready for I wasn't really ready for what was going on. Saw the ball come to me. I just reached out my hands, got it, and then I tried. I didn't want to just fall down on the ground, so I tried to, do my best to advance the ball. But, I got 6 yards. So.
All right, that's good. That's good average.
Yeah, that's my longest run.
Have you ever had a chance to score before in a football game?
No.
No, you've always been a defensive lineman,
Yeah.
pretty much. Okay. Coach, I got to ask one thing. Your beard is getting pretty impressive, and Bart obviously hasn't cut his hair, and Aaron even has a pretty nice goatee going there. Is there a hair thing going on with this team, or is that just kind of going on?
Well, if it's going on, I don't know about it. So maybe something's going on in the locker room. Not to my knowledge. I think he has no hair. That's a good point. Alton Voss, our 28-year-old defensive lineman, he's the veteran of the crew, and I think he's the one that kind of spurred a lot of this heading into it. And so, I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things that kind of happens in a locker room. He's kind of whatever happens, happens.
Okay, we'll end it with Mark Rosenquist saying "Let's go eat" in Swedish.
Nu går vi och äter.
That will conclude today's media luncheon. Thanks.
All right.